Welcome again to another episode of my favorite podcast, In Search of Inventory Truth. I'm your host, Travis Smith, and with me is marketing team's very own Matt Dembowski.
Thrilled
Great
to be
to have
with
you,
you,
Matt, again as usual. Hey, listen, we usually have special episodes of this show, but this time it's for real. We're going all out. And so here for you today, I think, is something that I'm excited to talk about, which is why nobody seems to understand me. Uh, you know, a lot of times when I have conversations with people on the street, I get this glossy-eyed look in people's faces. And it turns out that that could be a bad thing, but it also could mean that I want to talk about things like inventory sciences. I've got a lot of background in this technology, and sometimes you make assumptions that other people understand what the hell you're talking about. But, Matt, you probably can attest to some of this also.
Yeah, for sure. When I came on, I was absolutely inundated with all the new terms.
Yeah, I bet.
It took me a while before, any of it sunk in.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn.
Yeah, and I was just kind of embarrassed for some of the things I'd have to Google on the work computer, like ERP or WMS or our building's address.
Well, I do know that you know how to find the website now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's impressive. Everyone usually takes the first month to get that.
I know how to break it too.
You probably do. But hey, what are the kinds of things that we were able to do to help you through that?
It was a lot of talks with you and sort of being a resource as a company that really helped me through. So,
well, the team we've had here is usually a pretty good resource to work with. And some of the things that they probably helped you with are the types of things we want to also help people with. And so today's episode, we're going to focus on what we call a cheat sheet to the Microsoft suite of enterprise products and hopefully relate them to current business challenges that you have as well.
All right. First things first, my favorite segment though. How would you feel about going over some listeners' questions?
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
All right. And as always, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out, give us a call, find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Funny you say that because in a previous show we talked about people coming to my house to offer up any questions or comments, and I appreciate all those people that have taken me up on that. I like to see everyone come to my door, meet my family. That's great. Next time, let's also think about texting or emailing as well.
Mm-hmm. Little advance notice. I'll remember that one for next time. All right, so our first question today. How does the inventory platform differ from a traditional WMS?
Yeah, good question. I pretty much have made it my life's mission to try to explain the difference between WMS and inventory platform. So I don't know if that means I'm going to live a long life or what, but I can tell you that WMS has some differences with inventory platform that are very important to understand, especially in today's environment. When you're dealing with one order source like an ERP system, WMS tends to make a lot of sense. But when you're dealing with orders being generated from all sources, including e-commerce, which, by the way, also wants to get real-time inventory information, not to mention mobile order taking, which also wants real-time inventory information. Pretty soon, all those different order sources requires something called an order management system, which, by the way, our inventory platform takes some portion of that and handles it on its own. But it also means that having an order management system outside of your ERP is probably where things are going to go and where you should be looking at why WMS is not going to be the fit that you're looking for to solve some of those major problems with real-time visibility.
Like we say often, it's got to be that inventory truth. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, that's really what this is all about. This podcast is all about. My entire life's mission. It's all about inventory truth, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the value of that is becoming clear to people that are dealing with all kinds of, curbside order fulfillment issues, retail replenishment, things going out of stock in retail, not to mention online order takers that get frustrated when they order something and they arrive to pick it up to find out that it isn't even there yet. Those are really problems that are top of mind with many companies today. And so, customers, partners, everyone needs that real-time access, especially now that we're working a lot more remotely. Remote sites is becoming a much more common thing, and that's where mobile ordering also is important. So
okay, well, onwards and upwards to our next question. Who is a listener who seems pretty interested in getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
Their question is, what are some of the signs that it's about time to get in and get an estimate for the inventory platform?
Well, in manufacturing, it's about how long you can keep the manufacturing line churning away. You don't want to hold up inventory with missing raw material. So that's where that real-time inventory position of a platform helps out by giving you that tool that requests inventory from the floor right when you need it for raw material, and that pinpointing of specific lots if needed can all be done with back-end processes so that it takes less worry out of the hands of the user and more on the system.
All right, our next question comes from a listener who seems pretty interested.
Mm-hmm.
They're asking, what are the top indicators that I need an inventory platform?
Yeah, I think the top indicators are, when you have these orders coming from all over the place, whether it's mobile orders, whether it's e-commerce orders, you've got to move beyond the ERP system as a means to handle the management of all those orders. The customers and partners, I mean, they all need more and more real-time access to that data. And not to mention working with remote scenarios where you have to have connections to customer devices or partner devices that are out in the field.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, last question coming in from our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
What types of metrics and data does the inventory platform track for
Mm-hmm.
measuring productivity in manufacturing?
Yeah, so good question. I think manufacturing lines have to be churning out product all the time. I mean, nobody wants a downed, bottlenecked manufacturing process. So the metric I'd be shooting for is how much downtime does that cell have, for example. Real-time inventory positions can also be beneficial there because if you can request inventory in real time and you can get the specific pinpointed lots or product and raw materials that you absolutely need on this specific manufacturing job, you've saved yourself a ton of headache, and that's a metric that I would be looking at there.
All right. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks again for the questions all. And remember, if you're curious about what the inventory platform can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Very exciting.
I think it's about time that we get started with our big segment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big segment today, of course, is like we mentioned in the top of the discussion we had, is this Microsoft suite of products is really interesting and valuable to kind of get a refresher on what's kind of going on in that area. Matt, are the types of things that we're going to cover going to be the list that we worked with together? Or
Yeah. Well, we developed a list of topics that we wanted to talk about, but if anybody's new to the podcast, we like to make it a little interesting on our big segment. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to be doing is doing it game show style today.
Okay.
Yes.
And so what does that mean, game style? Game show style?
Yeah. Okay. So with that list of topics that we wanted to cover today, I found some key phrases and words that score you points.
Okay. That sounds good. And so if I'm going to elaborate on the value proposition of some of these products or my thoughts on them, and I happen to say words that you earmarked with for buzzer, you're going to hit the buzzer.
I get to hit a buzzer.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's give that a try.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, good. That's what it sounds like. Awesome.
Yep. I like it so far, but something tells me that sound's we're not gonna like it very much by the end.
Of this. So, yeah, what do we got first?
So, first things that we are going to talk about is Dynamics 365.
Well, good. I think the Dynamics 365 really had its start as a platform that centered around customer insights, and CRM is traditionally what people call it. Now it's really evolved into a customer data platform, which is very similar to the role that an inventory platform plays, except you're dealing with customer data and how you use that data to drive into all that source of information for customer insights. And really that has made vast improvements, including world-class AI as an example.
The phrase was AI, and you nailed it.
And that the analytics for that allow you to look at every bell and whistle you possibly could in finding and keeping your customers. So only major beef I have with this is the UI is a little bit of a hodgepodge of experiences that get even worse the further you go into the system from an administrator in advanced settings. Other than that, as always, the powerful integrations that we have.
2 points for Mr. Smith on the first one.
Powerful integrations, and so as always, you have to remember garbage in, garbage out with integrations. But data discipline is critical when you're working with these types of tools.
All right. I think it's about time we move on to the Dynamics 365 Dataverse.
Yeah, Dynamics Dataverse is really that foundation we've already kind of talked about, but it's essentially playing the role of an improved application platform. It's always been originally known as the Kamam, if you can believe that.
This is still new to me. It could be called the Kama Mama Mama. You can fool me.
Yeah, the Microsoft Dataverse is essentially a new and improved application platform that is built on what was formerly known as the Common Data Service and the Common Data Model. Many years ago, I started working on designing and using low-code, no-code systems and building them out. And from what I can tell you so far, this system is really being a foundation that brings us into a whole new level of citizen developers and low-code, no-code scenarios that are really useful. My prediction is this could be the sleeper disruption of the decade for technology, and it's probably worth explaining a little bit about how the backbone facilitates scaling and heavy lifting.
Scaling and heavy lifting.
Well, you're into heavy lifting, so that's good. Appreciate that. Awesome.
I had to highlight that phrase.
Heavy lifting, as I was saying, around authentication and security for a variety of ways that are best suited for the right user types. Often there's that secret to technology, and this is one of them, is authentication and security. As you know, that problem is not ever going away. It's kind of like taking SQL Server, CRM, Active Directory, Microsoft Flow connectors, orchestration, cognitive services. There's so many different tools, making them available, and out comes magical backends that run almost anything you want. Not quite everything.
We are now looking into the Dynamics 365 Business Central.
Yeah, Business Central. It's a fantastic cloud-based ERP.
That was quick. The phrase was cloud-based.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good phrase to highlight. It has its roots in Microsoft Nav. Marco Perisic and his team took it to the cloud, and it's a perfect fit for small or medium-sized businesses. It's kind of like moving up the ladder in future-proofing your back-end system. I mean, it has many line of business functions, manufacturing, warehouse management, HR, even customer relationship management. And licensing, with some of the Microsoft stuff can get a little bit sticky, and there are a lot of licensing options. In fact, manufacturing and service management cost a little bit more to operate, so you have to make sure you're checking in on all that licensing. But it is well suited for intercompany and international business. The downside is that it lacks the newest form of integration to the Microsoft Dataverse as of yet, and I know this is being addressed as we speak. But also for companies that need more advanced capabilities in field service or manufacturing, marketing, warehouse management, I suggest not leveraging all that out of the box business system and instead going with best of breed systems connected through the Dataverse friendly world of that platform. I think it's okay to go away from using all that data and functionality in an ERP system, and I think that's the world that we're dealing with in the reality of today.
All right. Mm-hmm. Moving onwards to Microsoft Azure.
Azure. Yes, it's a tricky one, and
that's a point for me.
I think there's no wrong answer. Yes. Thank you for hitting that buzzer again, Matt.
Yeah, all day.
The thing about Microsoft Azure is it's really a foundation that it stands behind all these terms that I've mentioned before. The Dataverse, these technologies are all built around this Azure platform, and so it's kind of like giving you a whole set of tools that you could never build yourself, and so you can leverage that as a service. Take for example SQL Server. I mean, that's one of the most complex things to put in place and manage it, but with Azure makes it a lot simpler to build solutions that don't even require a SQL Server backend or normalized database. Anyway, my only recommendation is that if kids today spend half the time they do on their electronic devices, and instead started building stuff in Azure, especially if they want to drive nice cars or make more money or save money, maybe for college. That certainly would be what I wish my kids would have done. But trust me, I'm not a financial advisor or coach, but I do know there's tons of opportunity. And the nth degree, you can take it in terms of scalability and feature sets. I mentioned AI. There's also, routing of traffic. There's scaling services. There's security, telecommunications, failover, geolocation deployments, blah, blah, blah. It just keeps going. On-premise, hybrid cloud scenarios. You can do edge computing with IoT. You can create future-ready cloud solutions that are built for the web. You can also think of it as really the background of the history of it being the first virtual data center.
That's another point today. The phrase was first virtual data center, and I got that right from the Wikipedia page.
That's hilarious. Azure has been around for a long time, and it just continues to amaze me, the level of services that they continue to build on it. But, whether you're talking voice streaming, Microsoft Teams itself is built upon the foundation of Azure. It's got voice capabilities. You can do SMS chats. API management, you can build, you can train machine learning. It just goes on and on. I mean, I'm getting tired just talking about all this stuff, but it's an amazing platform to build on, and it helps to build the confidence on these Power Platform tools that you have a solid foundation that you're building on.
Sure. This next one that we have coming up, I hear a lot about and a lot of our clients use. It's Microsoft Power BI.
Microsoft Power BI is a data analytics tool, and Power, probably the first time Microsoft ever used Power in marketing was probably a Power Rangers video game that I think we had for my Xbox. And the Xbox we had was an R2-D2. I don't know if you've seen those before.
I think I remember it. It came out for one of the Star Wars Battlefront games or something back when those were big.
Yeah. Anyway, when you turn it on, it does the R2-D2 sounds. Anyway. I digress, but Power BI is really the first enterprise cloud analytics platform that Microsoft put forward, and it's a great creation for beautiful designs. You can do real-time access to a lot of different data sets. Those connectors is really where they all got their start, is in Power BI, that are now leveraged into other parts of the world of Microsoft's Power Platform. But one of the cool things you can do with it is you can build something called an R-series analysis in Power BI. You may not be aware of that, but it gives you the ability to show time series analysis of data. So, it's all that kind of cool stuff. If you're into data and you call yourself a data geek, you probably would really like to learn more about this kind of thing, which, of course, I love to do as well.
Yeah, we have a couple data geeks at the company.
The other thing, so it's really all about data visualization. It's unifying the data of all these different sources and giving you immersive data dashboards that are actionable insights, and you can drive your business results with. So,
very cool.
So, the other thing about the platform is that it does have industry-leading data security capabilities.
Boom! The phrase was security capabilities.
Yeah, security keeps coming up over and over. And it does do end-to-end encryption and real-time access monitoring for all the data that's flowing through Power BI, but those are all technical pieces. It does have, tight integration to Excel and a whole host of data connectors that you can access to feed data into it. So,
all right, next up, we are talking Microsoft Power Automate.
Microsoft Power Automate is sort of like a skin that lives over the top of an integration platform called Microsoft Flow. Speaking of marketing, marketing can get really confusing, especially in the world of Microsoft, going back to the days of Windows NT. I don't know if you've ever heard of Windows NT, but I believe it stood for New Technology, or maybe Next Technology. I don't recall, but there was a period in time where, power this, power that is also an example where you have to really understand all the pieces behind it, and it can get confusing. But anyway, I want to speak to having that, that Power Automate piece as part of your strategy. I think the connectors are something that our developers use a lot of, and they're very involved in connecting things using these tools. One of the cool things I like about Power Automate that brings APIs into a more modern architecture is the use of what I call webhooks. I don't call them that. I mean, everyone calls them that, but these eventing pieces come out of Power Connector, allow you to connect to all kinds of different systems, including Microsoft Intelligent Order Management as an example, where real-time inventory visibility is possible with these types of systems. So it automates business processes. It's much like a prettier looking Microsoft BizTalk server world. If you know BizTalk server, it goes way back to my day as a developer, where you have lots of messages and responses and routing that goes on between these different workflows. It has real-time triggers, useful many times, but when you don't want or need instant callbacks, you can create schedules that also run Microsoft flows to do the integration at periodic times. Right now, there's over 300 data sources that are publicly available, APIs.
The phrase was API. Another point.
Yes, API, Application Programming Interface, I believe.
I was really hoping you'd go over what that stood for.
Well, you can even automate tasks on your local computer using things like Excel as a source of data with connectors.
Okay, so I heard you bring it up earlier when we're talking about the Power Platform. Can you dive a little bit into Power Connectors?
Yeah, I know I talked a lot about Power Connectors, but really they just wrap an API and they allow for it to be coupled with things like data transformations of the data. So if, for example, you're creating a connector for consuming or creating orders, you can publish data transformation templates that allow people to take those and make their own and customize them without, again, having to learn code at their skill level. So this stuff's really easy to learn, and trust me, I can do it, and I think that says it all. One of the things you can also do is you can integrate with published premium connectors. There's a whole host of them out there that connect to data systems that require probably some expense from a subscription perspective, like other ERP systems. In fact, the Microsoft Dataverse is an example of a premium connector. But before the release of the Power Platform, to integrate with external services meant you usually had to build the integration yourself. Building some C# or using your .NET skills was also required. So it's nice to be able to have that capability.
So what you're saying is there's hope.
There's a lot of hope. Absolutely.
There's hope for me that I'd be able to do this.
It's always getting better, man. It always is getting better. With the release of these custom connectors also, you can implement this stuff with Power Apps very quickly and easily to pump data into your own mobile apps and dashboards, if you will, that have real web front ends. The other way you can look at it is a connector is like a wrapper or proxy around an API that
there's the point.
That interacts with proxy. Everyone loves that word, proxy.
It's a fun word.
I think proxy's probably more well known in the spy world.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
So that's why I highlighted it.
Yeah. Maybe that's where you blame somebody else for the things you do. I think
that's a patsy. Right?
Probably.
Okay.
But these interact with Power Automate and Power Apps, and these connectors are bidirectional communication that moves between different systems and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now that we're talking about it, let's get into Microsoft Power Apps.
Yeah, I mentioned Power Apps a little bit, but basically it's a big deal. I mean, if Microsoft can eat their own oatmeal, is that the term I'm thinking of?
Have their cake and eat it too?
What's the term I'm looking for? Anyway, it's a big step that in the past, Microsoft wouldn't even use their own software to support their own business. And that's a good sign they're changing things and they're moving to their own use of these technologies. Power Apps is a piece of framework that now they're building things like field service, mobile on top of. I like that even that there's not a need for having the best craftsmen building these tools, but you can assemble things and try them out and find out what works best for you in terms of look and feel. The ROI on these is really through the roof when you look at the developers and project teams that you don't have to spend all that expense on. And when it comes to creating creating the tools and managing them and supporting them, that's all additional cost that this helps you to alleviate with. So you can quickly build and share these low-code apps.
Low-code apps. I've heard that one all the time.
I like to use the word loco apps too.
Yeah,
but
that's good.
Low-code apps is something that I think is really exciting. So, they give you a whole set of pre-built templates. They drag and drop simplicity is what they provide as well, and it's quick deployment. You can try it out. You can see if you like it, and if you don't, rework it again. It's got a lot of stuff that you can also, as a professional developer, get into and make changes to in those systems, and it has a number of pre-built AI components as well. It provides also capabilities to extend Microsoft Azure functions. It's a powerful tool to even extend on-premise systems as well.
Very cool. Okay, so now that we're getting into it, let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Supply Chain Management.
When it comes to Microsoft Supply Chain Management, what I'm going to say is probably a little bit shocking, but ever since Blue Horseshoe's WMS was acquired by Microsoft, I've had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and so certainly supply chain management's a great solution, and it's great for very complex scenarios. It's great for also very simple scenarios, but almost everyone would say that SCM is probably used in the first group where it's more complex. You're using more of a developer and technical expert scenario when you're implementing SCM. You're using X++ code to customize things. You're using dual write custom services and that are available through the Dataverse to integrate into the Power Platform. And it's really the biggest issue to me is the skills gap in the learning that's required to know how to configure this large engine of a system. I think our approach is more around making it very easy to use and quick to use, and start with some very basic assumptions, and then work our way back into letting users easily tweak the system as they go without having to code anything. So a little bit different approach. SCM is also like most other WMS systems. It's built for the four walls. It also leverages external systems to handle the order management needs. It uses other systems to push real-time inventory data to in order for that order management system to occur. The other thing you can leverage is predictive technologies.
There it is. I know you were waiting for a while on that one.
To improve throughput and quality and delivery in your factories and manufacturing. So it is valuable in that sense.
Sure. Well, moving on, we talk about this one just about every time we record the podcast. This is Microsoft's Intelligent Order Management, and I know you're real excited about this one.
Yeah, I am absolutely very excited about it. I mean, I believe that with this Microsoft Intelligent Order Management capability, it really takes a lot of companies to a new level in being able to deal with the complexities of not only supply chain, but order management, and really being able to, for the first time, leverage AI within the flows that they have developed for their businesses. It's got the ability to optimize order fulfillment against a rules-based orchestration system. It helps to support all kinds of fulfillment strategies that work best for your organization. It also enables smarter fulfillment across optimal stock levels using real-time omni-channel inventory data. It even gains real site visibility for people that are looking into the orders all the way from intake to fulfillment with customizations integrated to dashboards that track and improve operational efficiency across the board. Very important to see all those pieces coming together into being able to automate the responses.
The word was automate.
Automate, okay. Automate to responses to order fulfillment constraints. Those happen all the time, especially when you're dealing with shortages of inventory. It helps to ensure on-time delivery. It also allows you to do drag and drop with the tools to modify the way orders flow through that orchestration. It integrates with existing enterprise systems using power connectors, but also providers is really the way that information goes in and out of IOM is what we call it for short.
Mm-hmm. You're going to want to get pretty used to that phrase IOM. You're going to be hearing it a lot. Now here's another interesting one. This is Microsoft's distributed order management.
Yeah, distributed order management is a portion of technology that came out of the e-commerce side of the house there at Microsoft. It was built for optimizing order fulfillment across a complex network of systems and processes. It relies on a single global view of inventory across the whole organization to intelligently manage those orders so that they're fulfilled accurately, so that they're done in a cost-effective manner. The other thing is by improving.
It was a global view of inventory. I wanted to see what you do. We're just trying to throw you off now.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I think I did say global view of inventory.
You did say
Yeah.
it. I wanted to see
Very
if.
good, very good. By improving efficiency of the retailer supply chain, this DOM, as it's called, really helps the retailer better meet their customer requirements.
Which is pretty high on the list at the end of the day.
It is very high up on the list. It's very key.
All right. Now we're talking about Microsoft Azure, Active Directory, B2B and B2C.
Wow, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, Azure AD, of course, Active Directory, B2C and B2B. B2B is businesses connecting to businesses using authentication that is more around OAuth and other means. B2C is a way of authenticating across providers that are already existing out in the world, such as Facebook, such as Google. They all have B2C providers that you can leverage. Why is that important or interesting? Well, if you do want operators in your system to be authenticated through a different source that is fairly trusted, you can leverage those types of scenarios for log-on authentication without having to require people to get their own accounts. Always, something that is available but not often used. These solutions for Active Directory, they really allow you to get flexible with these external users so that they can use their preferred identities for sign-in, their own email accounts into your organization's applications without having to worry about, the security that you have to have around your ERP or your WMS system. It's a separate picture. The other nice thing is that stakeholders such as vendors, partners, customers, guests, they can bring their own identity capability with an external identity solution that plugs right into it. So, very extensible. And it also means that, whether you have an Azure AD tenant or unmanaged identities such as those from social media sites like LinkedIn.
Social media sites like LinkedIn is our phrase.
Social media, yes. Big fan of social media myself. Mostly just reading, but not really actively participating. But that's another topic. So yeah, Active Directory, very key to security, and especially in today's world when people are struggling with those ransomware issues and other security problems. You can even implement two-factor authentication as well if you really need to go further, which is very common these days.
All right. Another topic that we've been broaching on and off on the podcast is field service. So I want to talk a little bit about Microsoft Dynamics 365 for field service.
Well, the reason why field service is kind of important for us is that it's really our first foray into a full Power Platform deliverable, and I'm excited about it. It allows you to do proactive work against a service ticket instead of reactive. You can ensure your consistent and your dependable operation is there to help you predict, help you to detect and resolve any kind of service issue you might be having at your customer sites. It also uses, again, you've heard the word AI, to help optimize the resources and costing of dispatching those techs when and where they're needed the most. So, it also gives you the tools to resolve those problems the first time, and it allows you to build customer trust and loyalty as well.
And we get the last answer, the buzzer beater.
That's great.
Ladies
Thank
and
you,
gentlemen.
Matt. I want to say, there's a lot to all these tools, and we're just skimming over the top. And most of what I'm saying, as I mentioned before, I'm not necessarily coherent at all times, but hopefully you got something out of that. There are more information to be available on our website, and of course, you can always ping us to get more answers as well.
Definitely.
So thanks again for being here, Matt, and let's make tomorrow's podcast even better.
WithoutWire is a cloud-based inventory management service that brings science to barcode scanning for field techs, manufacturers, or warehouse pickers. Within minutes, you can set up your own personalized environment. With our embedded Microsoft Power BI and SQL reporting services, you'll get live views of your activity from nearly any device and form factor including iOS or Android-based smartphones, tablets, and rugged purpose-built scanning devices. WithoutWire. Inventory management solutions without equal.